Hello, good morning. Happy first Friday. Hi, Wayne. Hi, Mike. Hello. Well, again, happy first Friday. Instructor Insights. It is August 4th, back to school season. Hallelujah. Welcome. I thought I'd talk about today, when I was asked to discuss our Instructor Insights today, I kind of reflected on the past couple of months and kind of thought about, what are the common questions, common themes that have come up when I've been out and about teaching. And the one I'm finding most often is I'm often asked, I should say, how can I strike a balance between maintaining a positive relationship with employees, but also fulfilling responsibilities to address certain matters that are also shared in confidence as an investigator? And it's a really good question. And it's one I myself throughout my career have had to deal with. I've had colleagues that have as well. So it is a common question. I think about the stakes involved in ethical questions. They are often high, not just for the company, if not just for the company, I should say, but for the employees and managers that are also involved. For example, I'll give you one. When you think about an investigator, what's an investigator to do when he or she promises to hold something in confidence and then identifies that pledge proves to be impossible to keep? I can share with you an example, a further example of this. Not too long ago, in a recent class I was teaching, an investigator that was attending the course shared with the group a particular situation. So he shared with us that while training new workers at a particular refinery, he had told the workers that he would keep any safety violations he had witnessed before their next training section in confidence, simply so they had the ability to discuss the training violations or the safety violations openly. So this investigator goes on to share with the group that he was expecting to hear stories of minor issues such as goggles not being worn, if at all, or inappropriately, things of that nature. But he goes on to actually share that he was stunned to hear that two workers were describing how they were instructed to vent poisonous gas into the air, which is a complete violation of company policy and safety procedures. And this investigator went on to share with us as a group that the employees working there, because of these actions, could have died. So this investigator continues to share with us that once he identified these violations, he took these two individuals that had shared that they were given this direction aside, and he told them that he had had no idea that they had been put in such a dangerous situation. And although, despite his promise of confidentiality, he had no choice but to report the incident. So those employees didn't take that news too well, and they objected. And their fear primarily was out of retaliation. Now that investigator, recognizing that, they were objecting, he in an apologetic manner, I should say, turned to these two employees and said, would you want to work for a company that's not safe to work at? And those employees kind of started to agree, although reluctantly, he shared. This investigator was able to secure a transfer for one of the whistleblowers to another location. However, the second employee didn't have that flexibility to transfer to a different location, and he ended up having to stay with the original team. Now, I will tell you, a year later, a year after this incident, that second employee did resign from the company. And during his exit interview, he shared that the past year stemming from that incident was like going through hell for him. So really the key takeaway from this situation, and that we further discussed, and it's common in my response when I'm asked this question, can we strike that balance, is we have to set boundaries around what exactly confidence means. This particular investigator had promised confidentiality to those employees he was training, and clearly keeping that promise would have resulted in potentially life-threatening operations continuing at that particular refinery, unbeknownst to leadership. So as investigators, we need to recognize that we are in the business to getting people to talk to us. We want people to talk to us. Recognize when we have folks coming to us sharing confidential, personal, whatever that may be, matters and concerns that are, again, personal to them. Recognize they came to you for a reason, and whatever that reason is, there's a chance we don't want to disrupt that relationship. So, to continue that positive rapport, we want to encourage what we call a cooperative mindset, where we get that complainant to want to take ownership and action to make a positive change. So, a couple of action items for us when we're approached with confidential matters. And those confidential matters are requested by the complainant to be kept in confidence. It's important for us investigators to clearly communicate to employees that while you absolutely respect confidentiality, there are certain situations where you, as an investigator, are bound to breach it, such as when it involves legal or ethical concerns, or even when it potentially could harm the individual or even other individuals or employees. And what this really does for us is it helps set that expectation from the get go. Now, whenever possible, seek that employees or that complainant's consent before sharing any confidential information. And how you can go about doing this is you can first and foremost kind of explain the whys, why you need to share this information. Number two, it would be important to share who the individuals are that are going to be receiving this individual. And then number three, assure your complainant that the information will be handled discreetly. Next, bullet point to kind of keep in mind here is we want to share confidential information with those who have a legitimate need to know basis or a need to know, if you will, concern. We also want to keep detailed records of confidential conversations, ensuring that they are stored securely. This is going to help you really with the help you, I should say, recall details accurately as you're looking to share them, go back over them. It's also going to assist you in demonstrating that you're handling the matter responsibly. And if necessary, another bonus to this, you may need to demonstrate a chain of custody so that this will allow you to do that. You're also, last point here, we're going to want to familiarize yourself with relevant legal and ethical guidelines within your jurisdiction. Recognize across the country here, we've got all different employment laws and considerations to be made depending on your state and your jurisdiction. So really do take the time to understand those boundaries of confidentiality and ensure you are also adhering to legal requirements as mandated by your organization or agency while addressing those employee concerns or breaches of policy. And above all, be consistent. Be consistent here. Now, many common situations that confront investigators may seem to be ethical dilemmas, but when you really think about them, some can actually be professional judgment calls. And I'll give a couple of examples here. One that was recently shared with me. If an investigator suspects an employee is the victim of domestic violence, is the investigator obligated to call the police? Another example, what if an employee asked to forego a pay increase because accepting it would mean a cut in social service benefits? Or another great example, another coworker is bragging about using their brother-in-law's parking placard that's intended for people with disabilities. And that coworker's bragging again that they're just borrowing it out of their own convenience. Does an investigator have an obligation to look into those matters? And I will tell you the answer is going to vary. I see workplace investigators as having to determine whether the issue in itself involves the employer or not. And we have to decide if it's appropriate or necessary to get involved or not. And to do that, we want to start by asking questions, asking ourselves a couple of questions. Question number one, to my knowledge, is there any potential legal issue to the company? Question number two, is someone's safety in jeopardy? And question number three, does this conflict with the company's culture, the mission, the policies, or even what we expect of our employees? If your answer is yes to any of these questions, you may want to consider taking action. That, of course, leaves you with a new question. What exactly should that action be? But whatever that is, remember, investigations are as much as a search for relevant facts as they are a mirror or magnifying glass on existing issues. All right. Hey, thanks for spending a few minutes with me on this Friday morning. Have a fantastic weekend and be safe out there. Take care.